Good morning, beloveds. You might hear Gabby today. She's in here and talking. There's a reason why her name is Gabby. And I'm running a little late because I woke up with this thing in my head and I had to get it out on paper. I don't know if you ever wake up like that. It's like you wake up with something in your head and it won't leave you alone until you write it down. And then once you write it down, then you might be obligated to do something with it. I just woke up with this weird dream and I was like, well, these are interesting characters, so I need to write this down. So I was trying to write it down. I was trying to explain it to Tom, and Tom's looking at me like I've lost my mind. Tom looks at me a lot of times like I've lost my mind because frequently I lose my mind. But that, so, yeah. There's always pen and paper in my house because one or the other of us will have this idea and we got to write it down. I mean, a lot of times I take notes on my phone, but this was definitely one where I needed to write it down, like the physical act of writing it down. So, all right. It is Saturday. Interestingly enough, there's still just a bit of snow left. In the areas, like a couple of the houses have just like in the creases, and right up against my house, on the west facing side of my house, there's still just a little bit of ice. There was some pretty frost this morning. We are hoping that today is the last day because this is day 6 for us. It was 27 degrees at 8 o'clock in the morning. So it's below freezing again. And so hopefully this is it. Tomorrow I think the low is going to be 50. So hopefully it'll get up into the 50s, maybe almost 60, and then tomorrow, because now we are in, a lot of the power's been restored and we are now into the cleanup phase. So yeah, this is an experience we choose not to repeat. The ambient air in my house is finally warm. That's what's been interesting about this whole experience, is that even with the heat running, when the heat wasn't running, the ambient air was cold. These houses don't have any insulation. They don't. So, yep. All right. It is Saturday. It is February 20th. And our title is I Recognize the Indwelling Spirit. Be still and know that I am God. And that is Psalm 46:10. And that is probably the most famous Bible quote, one of the most famous Bible quotes out there. A belief in the invisible is the very essence of faith. Prayer or spiritual communion demands a complete surrender to the invisible. It knows that because of the creative power of God is at hand, all things are possible. Whatever our idea of God may be, the perception of reality is always an inner perception. As Moses tells us, the word is not afar off, but in our own mouths. And Jesus taught that the kingdom of heaven is within us. The prayer of power is not so much a petition as it is an inner recognition. We cannot doubt that the Spirit is already made the gift of life since we live. Ours is the privilege of acceptance. Thus, we are to assume the attitude of a grateful beneficiary of the divine gifts. This should be done simply and directly. The Spirit is not something that was or that is going to be or become. The truth is that which is It exists at every corner of our being. To pray in spirit and in truth means to recognize this indwelling spirit and to declare the truth about its activity through us. Today, I directly experience the reality of spirit, allowing it to renew my mind, guide my decisions, and direct my affairs. I know that in the eternal act of creation, everything passes from the invisible to the visible to be temporarily experienced. I rest in peace, assured that my needs are met by this play of life upon itself. Okay. One of the things that Science of Mind, it's kind of core to Science of Mind and that Ernest Holmes teaches, is that the spirit is within you. And when you recognize the spirit within you, then, and become conscious of it and consciously use it, then I hesitate to use the word power because I don't think that that's the appropriate word. But for now, this is the word I'm going to use. Then your power expands. Your power to affect your life, your power to affect your reality, all of that expands. Instead of life happening to you, you happen to life. And that is a quote from somebody, and I can't remember who. It's like, instead of life happening to you, you go out and make life happen. I'm going to have to look that quote up. And so that's what today is about. Today is about recognizing that indwelling spirit, recognizing who you are, recognizing where you come from, and recognizing what you have access to. I recognize the indwelling spirit. What is the point of recognizing the indwelling spirit but to then access your spiritual nature, your spiritual activity, your spiritual power? So be still and know that I am God, from Psalms. Why would we want to be still and know that God is? Because if we know that God is, we recognize that God is, and we recognize that we come from. That's why Reverend Jesse likes to call us godlings. It's like we have a splinter, a divine splinter within us. That's my term. I swiped that from Gnosticism. Or maybe the Kabbalah. They both have that idea in them. I'm pretty sure that from Kabbalah, which they don't pronounce it that way. They pronounce it Kibbalah, which is hard for me. So the first container for life shattered and sent all of these splinters out into the world. And that's our job. Our job is to find and release the splinters. Well, guess what? We are the splinters. So we want to release ourselves. And as we release ourselves, then we free other people to release themselves because they see us doing it. It's like you can't release anybody other than yourself. But the very act of you releasing yourself, you gaining your freedom, enables other people to. You can't talk people into freedom, but you can show them. All right. The belief in the invisible is the very essence of faith. Prayer, or spiritual communion, demands a complete surrender to the invisible. Which is odd. A complete surrender to the invisible. Basically, when you go into prayer, when you go into meditation, when you go into communion, you have to let go of every idea about yourself and every idea about God or spirit or the quantum field or whatever word you want to use. You have to let go of every idea and just be. We are human beings, not human doings. And in those moments, we have to be. And we have to let God be. We spend a lot of time trying to shape God. But when we go into prayer, that's when we let God shape us. It knows that because the creative power of God is at hand, all things are possible. And that's what I mean by letting God shape us. When we go into prayer, we stop trying to shape God. We stop trying to tell God what God is or spirit is. We go into prayer and we say, what are you? And allow that to shape us. And when we allow that, when we get to know spirit as it truly is, instead of our perception of it, then all things are possible. Whatever our idea of God may be, the perception of reality is always an inner perception. So whatever our idea of God may be, that's what I mean by us shaping God. And religion and society and culture and tradition, all of that has shaped our idea of God. So we have a very definite idea of God, and sometimes it's a mess. And the truth is, we can't encompass what God is. So when we go into prayer, that's why we have to surrender all of our ideas of God and let God show us what spirit actually is. It is an inner perception. And in this mortal form, we'll never know the fullness of God. But we will always be touching God. We will always have an idea of it. Which leaves me to wonder if there'll ever be a time that we'll know the fullness of God. Because it's beyond what I can imagine. As Moses tells us, the word is not far off, but in our own mouths. And Jesus taught that the kingdom of heaven is within us. The prayer of power is not so much a petition as it is an inner recognition. An inner recognition of what spirit is, of what God is, of the nature of. Without our outer perception, without our defining. We cannot doubt that the Spirit has already made the gift of life since we live. Stating the obvious. Ours is the privilege of acceptance. Thus, we are to assume the attitude of a grateful beneficiary of the divine gifts. And we talk about the attitude of gratitude, and so we walk around and we look and we see. What is it that makes you grateful? Is it the people in your life that you love? Is it the beauty that you see around you? Is it the actions that you or another take? Is it music? Is it books? Is it poetry? What are the divine gifts that you recognize? And then expand your definition of divine gifts. This should be done simply and directly. The Spirit is not something that was or that is going to be or become. Okay? The Spirit is that which is. It exists at the very center of our being. Spirit is not bound by time. Truly, we are not bound by time, but the form that we wear right now is bound by time. To pray in spirit and in truth means to recognize this indwelling spirit and declare the truth about its activity through us. So what is its activity through us? He's constantly listing the qualities of God. Peace, harmony, love, joy, gratitude, creativity, unity, beauty. All of those are the qualities of God. They are not all of the qualities of God, but they are all qualities of God. So the activity through us, when we are in the nature of, when we act in the nature of God, when we act in the nature of love or peace or joy or harmony, we're recognizing the indwelling spirit. We are activating the indwelling spirit and allowing that indwelling spirit to flow out through us. Today, I directly experience the reality of spirit, allowing it to renew my mind, to guide my decisions, and to direct my affairs. And that's not fate. That's not fate. That's not a predestined path. That is a commitment to being guided by love, by acting in love, by filling our mind with love. And that means doing the hard things too. It means showing up. But it also means letting people do their own thing, letting people make their own mistakes, and letting people have their own wins, and being there to cheer them on. So, when we talk about allowing it to renew our mind, to guide our decisions, to direct our affairs, we're not talking about fate. We're not talking about being controlled. We're talking about accepting, acknowledging, and activating the qualities of spirit. I know that in the eternal act of creation, everything passes from the invisible to the visible to be temporarily experienced. And that's what we are. That's what we are. We are here in this mortal material form to experience. We are human beings, but we are here to do. We are here to experience. I rest in peace, assured that my needs are met by this play of life upon itself, which is a very Buddhist idea. They have, not Buddhist, Hindu. If you go back to Brahma, because in the end, Hindus have a lot of gods, but they have a lot of gods because they recognize that there's no way that we can encompass the entire idea of God. So they just name this little piece of God. But in the end, it all goes back to Brahma. Brahma is the one. Brahma is the only one. And life is Brahma dreaming and playing upon Brahma. And that's where we're all going to go back to. We're all going to go back to the one. But Ernest does say we get to retain what we've learned, which means our individual personality, even if our form doesn't go, our personality does. Okay, our mission today, should we choose to accept it? Our mission today, should we choose to accept it? Because what he says our mission today is to directly experience the reality of spirit. How do we directly experience the reality of spirit? By taking on and experiencing the qualities of God, whatever they are. Be that peace, be that love, be that gratitude, be that creativity, be that harmony. How do you activate harmony? That's for you to decide. But to allow that activity of spirit to renew your mind, to guide you, to direct you. And it does mean to surrender your ideas of God when you go into prayer and meditation. To allow God to show you who God is. To allow Spirit to show you what Spirit is. To surrender your ideas. And that can be hard. I mean, that can be hard. We have definite ideas of what God is and what God isn't. And we have a limited scope. So, all right, beloveds. I need a drink of water. So, I would encourage you to do something loving for yourself, do something kind for yourself, do something compassionate for yourself. Here in the South Texas, the sun came out yesterday, and the sun is out today. So I would encourage you, go out, bundle up, because it's still cold, but go out, get some, or open a curtain. Don't open a window, open a curtain, and allow, get that sunshine on your face. Get yourself 5 or 10 minutes of sun, like directly on your face, and just feel that warmth of the sun caressing your face. If you just close your eyes and feel it, it's an experience. And it's an experience unlike just about anything else. And there's no other light caresses you the way sunlight does. But I do burn, so that's why I'm saying 5 or 10 minutes. So stay warm, stay safe, stay hydrated. Yeah, I know water is a thing right now. I don't know how many counties are still under the boil water, but make sure you drink some water. Throughout this experience, if you've got a headache, you've probably not had enough water to drink. But take care of yourself, because we are coming into the time now where we can take care of each other, where we can get out and help each other. We've already seen a whole lot of that going on, a whole lot of amazing neighbors showing up for neighbors, friends showing up for friends. And there are little acts of kindness that we can all do. So, all right, beloveds, I'm going to move into the process of my day. I would encourage you to do something to engage your mind and your body. But more importantly than that, open the windows of your soul. Allow that breath of heaven to remind you do live in heaven now. You are a beloved child of Spirit, in whom Spirit is well pleased. Always. Spirit is always there because you carry Spirit within you. That is our state of grace. All right. Do what you need to do to take care of yourself, to have the best day that you can, and know that you are loved. Reverend David will probably be on with you around 5 p.m. today. I'll be back with you at 9 a.m. tomorrow. And since it's Saturday, we will have a service for you at 11 a.m. right here on Facebook Live. All right, beloveds?